Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner Circle Sports Betting Channel. I'm your host, Ross Benjamin. It's Monday, August the 28th. And like every week, we kick it off with our guest, Mr. Doug Upstone over at DocSports.com. We're brought to you by Gambler's World, where you'll find the best videos and sports picks from some of the greatest handicappers in the country right there at gamblersworld.net. And of course, our video section is gamblersworld.com. In any event, Doug, how are you?
I'm good, Ross. And hey, it was fun to watch some football, wasn't it?
It certainly was. Anything jump out at you from week zero?
You always, if you're a sports bettor, okay, and the one thing you always absolutely love is when one of your picks turnovers immediately impact the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
You can't beat that right out of the box. It's like, it's going to happen all year, but boy, when it happens, the first one, gosh, you got to love how that feels for you in that context. So yeah, so that was good.
Specifically speaking?
New Mexico State.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Now,
Against UMass.
UMass looked, as much as you would expect UMass to look better, they did. Okay. So this Dan Brown, I think, is doing a nice job as their head coach from that standpoint. But, New Mexico State turned the ball over 3 times. Okay. Led to 17 points, I believe, directly to 17 points. So that was the game. Okay. From that standpoint, not to say that they wouldn't have turned it over, anyways or whatever, but just one of those things that goes along. But Notre Dame, I thought looked good. I don't know what you thought. I'm not sure how good Navy is, so it's we won't know for a couple of weeks because Notre Dame plays, I think, East Tennessee State next week, and so that one's kind of struck a chord. Jacksonville State, some good defensive team, and we now have 2 teams with the name Gamecocks, by the way. So that was a big one from that standpoint. And let's see, I thought Ohio U would have beaten San Diego State if they would have had the regular quarterback. Not that the backup didn't play pretty good, but he had personally, 3 or 4 turnovers, as I recall?
Yeah, he threw 3 picks. It cost him the game. Basically, they lost, and that was my only pick of the week was on Ohio plus 2.5. So you speaking about striking a chord. And we're not talking about playing the guitar. That hurt because Curtis Rourke, their star quarterback, who is very highly touted in a lot of circles. If he's not going to make it in the NFL as a backup, he certainly is going to have a job in the CFL, especially considering he's Canadian born. But he got hurt early in the second quarter. They were ahead 6-3. No sideline reporter for CBS Sports Channel, which is ridiculous. So they never gave us an update on what happened. The announcers, who I left a lot to be desired as well, kept alluding to his ACL last year, or he tweaked an ankle. And the way I saw it, Doug, I don't know if you watched the game, I thought he got kicked in the head. And it was a concussion protocol to me.
Yeah.
That's what I observed. But the backup comes in, and the kid led him to a bowl game win last year, and he looked good at times, but he just made critical mistakes at most critical times of the game. That goes to show you sometimes quarterback depth is a big deal in college football. You can't account for an injury, you can't predict an injury, but it always helps to have a second string quarterback that without a lot of drop off, and that's very rare in college football.
Right.
So unless you get into the Power 5 conference teams. So in Ohio certainly isn't one of those. But in any event, not to cry over spilled milk.
No,
these kind of things happen. Go ahead, Doug.
No, one game.
Yeah.
One game. And so here we go. This week is when things really get going. Both of us will have a volume of plays upcoming this week, and got some good games on the card, and 2 of them that we're going to discuss, right, Ross?
Yeah, 2 nationally televised games. We're talking Texas Tech at Wyoming, which will be on CBS, and Doug's going to be talking, and I'm really, really interested in what Doug has to say about this matchup. It's a good one. North Carolina and South Carolina. That game will be on ABC, and both kickoffs will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. But before we get to those, friendly reminder, folks, I mentioned gamblersworld.net. You have 10 great handicappers there, including myself. Doug's not there only because he's under contract by Doc Sports, or else he would be there. But in any event, folks, just until Wednesday, running through Wednesday, we're giving you $100 off early bird special offer on college football annual package, NFL annual package, or if you want all of it, football annual package, you get $100 off until through, I should say, Wednesday the 30th. So take advantage of that, folks, because these guys that we have on the site, including myself, our goal is to win long term. And like this week, me and Doug lost our single play. Means nothing, okay? Because at the end, it means something at the end of the year if you're losing. And the track history of the guys we have on the site would suggest that you're in good shape if you invest in one of those annual football packages. Anyway, Doug, let's get to your game. North Carolina, South Carolina, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on ABC. Right now, North Carolina, a short 2.5-point favorite to total 64. It opened at -1 for North Carolina. It's moved to 2.5. South Carolina said their number. I mean, they've won 4 of the last 5 matchups against North Carolina, the most recent of which happened in 2021 when they won outright as a 13.5-point underdog. But it doesn't matter what I think about this game. It matters what you think.
Well, you're going to chime in. So, yeah, you get your chance to go with this as well. So, yeah, Battle of Carolina back in Charlotte at the same location as the Mayo Bowl was back in 2021. That game, though, Ross, I kind of throw that one out in terms of, really what mattered. Because like you said, North Carolina was a big favorite. Probably was a little bit disappointed to be there. South Carolina was super pumped to be taking on a team like North Carolina. So, I'm not going to put much into that one, but I'm going to put a lot into what's going to happen tonight. Now, most college football experts have Mac Brown's Tar Heels to finish 3rd in the ACC, and probably rather comfortably from that standpoint as well. The reason for optimism, of course, is sophomore quarterback Drake May, who has NFL ability to make all the throws. Okay, he was absolutely great as a freshman. The one thing, though, that they did lose a couple of top-notch receivers on that, but they replaced them with talented transfers. So I don't think the passing game will be interrupted that much. What has to change, though, for North Carolina to improve as a team is that they were 68th last year in rushing, and May had a lot of those yards. And so that's a problem. Offensive line's got to do a better job, and they also need 2 backs to step up. We'll see if that actually happens. Right now, it's still a little bit up in the air. Defensively, they allowed 30.8 points per game to the Tar Heels. They have talked about their defenses being remade, but the entire time that Mac Brown has been there, the defense has not been very good. So I think that remains a mystery about this team. Now, the other consensus on this one is South Carolina's is expected to finish 3rd or 4th in the SEC East under Shane Beamer as their coach. And he has made it known that he thinks this team is capable of finishing behind Georgia in the SEC Eastern Division. At the end of the year, quarterback Spencer Rattler played like he did at Oklahoma. Okay, his team scored 132 points in their last 3 games, upsetting both Tennessee and Clemson and falling by just 7 in the Gator Bowl in Notre Dame. New offensive coordinator for the Gamecocks coming into this year. What they did at the end of last year was simplify the offense. It made everything easier. I think they'll go along that same path, but the new offensive coordinator has NFL experience, so I think that will help Rattler from that standpoint. The defense for the Gamecocks, very similar to North Carolina. There's issues there. Now, as I mentioned, South Carolina whipped them, or as Ross mentioned, they whipped them last year or a year and a half ago in the bowl game. That matchup was all about attitude. This is going to be an offensive showcase, okay, from this standpoint. However, I'm not going to do the points because it opened at 60.5, and now it's, like Ross said, it's up to 64. I see a terrific game, back and forth, lots of points still in this one. But Beamer, whose father was Frank at Virginia Tech, is a special teams genius, just like his father was. And I think that will be the difference in the game where something will happen that will account for 7 points, and the Gamecocks cover the 2.5 points and possibly win the game outright. Give me South Carolina, Ross, to get the job done Saturday night.
South Carolina Gamecocks plus the 2.5 over North Carolina. That is going to be played on a neutral field. Yes, it's in Charlotte, North Carolina, but it's pretty much midway point between Chapel Hill and Columbia, South Carolina, if you know the landscape there. Also, you made a good point about North Carolina's defense. Since Mac Brown's been there, the offense has been prolific since he's been there. Is Gene Chizik still the defensive coordinator at North Carolina?
Yes, he is. Yep.
Yeah, and I thought they'd turn it around a little bit with him. He's the former Auburn coach. He was a former Auburn head coach when Cam Newton was there, and Auburn won a national championship. But I haven't seen any drastic improvement since he's arrived on campus. So we'll see what happens there. And you make a good point. In a game like this, that could go back and forth. Two great quarterbacks. In Spencer Rattler, who was a former Oklahoma quarterback, like Doug said, he was highly touted coming out of high school. Had a disappointing year his last year at Oklahoma. Actually lost his starting job, and that's why he transferred to South Carolina. But Doug hit right on the nose. He started out sort of shaky last year for the first half of the year, and once he got comfortable in the system and the offensive coordinator simplified things for him, he was very, very productive. So the difference in that game could be special teams, like Doug said. In a game that goes back and forth, you never know. A block punt, a kick return for a touchdown, a turnover on special teams. Well, any little thing like that could make the difference in a game like that. So, and in any event, Doug likes South Carolina plus the 2.5 over North Carolina. I'm glad I didn't have to ask him if he wanted the money line on North Carolina as a short favorite, because that would have brought on a whole different discussion. Anyway, let me look at my game. Texas Tech at Wyoming. That game goes, like I said, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. It will be televised nationally by CBS. Right now, Texas Tech is -14, and the total is 52. You notice opened at 14, and it's held serve at 14. And when I looked at the betting trends, and I'm not talking about ATS and over trends, I'm talking about public betting. The money and the amount of bets on both teams are pretty much equal. And as a result, we're seeing not much line movement or total movement in this game. Now, Wyoming is coming off a 7-6 year last year. They did finish the year with a disappointing bowl loss to Ohio. They do have 10 defensive starters returning. And but here's the thing, I talk about RPR, which is returning production ranking, and what it means. And in this particular instance, you're talking about 10 returning starters on defense, but this is a defense that allowed 30-plus points on 6 occasions last year. And they did not. And the only time they played a Power 5 conference team was in their opening game, in which they lost to Illinois 38-6. So they're going to be playing a high-powered Texas Tech offense. And this Texas Tech offense, by the way, returning 11 starters, all 11 starters from a season ago. But before we get to Texas Tech, another point with Wyoming. Since Craig Bolas got there and took over as head coach in 2014, he's done a really good job at Wyoming, considering it's not a hotbed for recruiting players. And the biggest feather in his cap is he took on a little-known quarterback at that time, Josh Allen, out of California, who came out of the junior college ranks, and we know the story there. However, even with Josh Allen, when they face Power 5 conference teams, they're not very good when they step up in class. As a matter of fact, with Bull, 1-9 straight up and 3-7 against the spread when facing Power 5 teams. And the Cowboys are just 5-5 straight up in their last 10 at home. And none of those opponents in those 10 home games were Power 5 conference schools. So there you have it. Texas Tech, 8-5 last year. And they started out 4-5, and then they caught fire at the end of the year under second-year head coach Joey McGuire. And they went 4-0 straight up in ATS in their last 4 games, and they really didn't do it against lightweights. As a matter of fact, all 4 of those wins in their final 4 games, including their bowl game, came against teams that went to a bowl game. And they scored 42-plus points in 3 of those 4 games, which shows me that offense started to mature as the year went on, and they started to get a grasp of things. and now they return all 11 guys this year. So Texas Tech, by the way, 19-1 straight up in their last 20 season openers, and that includes 4-0 if they were on the road, and they covered 3 of those 4, and they won by 22.3 points per game. But that's the least of which why I am going to go with Texas Tech in this game. By the way, since 1996, any college football non-conference favorite of 13 to 17.5 points like Texas Tech is, they're playing in their season opener. They won 7 or more games the year before, like Texas Tech did. They won 8. And they're facing an opponent that won 7 games or less the year before. Those double-digit favorites of 13 to 17.5 in their season openers have gone 15-3 against the spread since 1996. That's 83.3%. Doug, I'm going to take Texas Tech here minus the 14 on the road at Wyoming. I'm always a little hesitant to lay points on the road, especially in a season opener, but this is one of those rare occasions where I'm not going to hesitate to do so.
Yeah, I mean the size, the speed, the advantage, everything is with Texas Tech and the Red Raiders there. One thing though, I'm going to go just a little bit contrarian here, Ross. I'm not going to disagree with your full game pick, but I do like the fact that Wyoming has 10 starters back on defense, and I think that might be enough to keep them in the game. Texas Tech, I don't recall specifically, but I don't recall their run defense being all that great last year. Wyoming prefers to run the ball, slow the game down, move the clock, and if they have some success doing that, I don't mind taking Wyoming plus the 7.5 on the first half line. This one to keep it, right within the context of the game, and then also, we get the hook of the 7.5 could come into play as well.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because you would think a team playing in their season opener at home as a substantial underdog will be a little bit fired up. Yep. And you make a good point because Texas Tech's defense, I don't think is going to be that good this year. Now, whether that rears its ugly head against a team from the Mountain West, an average team at best out of the Mountain West, remains to be seen. But by the same token, too, like I mentioned with those 10 returning starters on defense, it's a defense that gave up 30-plus points a game last year, and they're going to be – it's not like they're facing an inexperienced offense. That's the only objection I would have to what you're saying. Yeah. And, we make both make good points on either side. But the official pick here is Texas Tech minus 14 over Wyoming, and Doug likes South Carolina plus the 2.5 over North Carolina. Doug, what do you got coming up this week?
Well, one thing I'm always glad, though, whenever we talk, you always fit in Buffalo. And whenever we're talking football discussion, so you got in Josh Allen there. So nice work on that one. So what do I got going this week? Well, of course, I'll have lots of football picks, as I mentioned already, coming up. Nothing's been finalized as of Monday, but I'm definitely looking at a variety of things. Baseball, Ross, continues to be red hot. 35-17 the last 29 days, just absolutely killing it in baseball. And MLB props, okay, had a couple of nice streaks throughout the season, but this one is right there with it. 10-3 most recently on MLB props, primarily pitcher props, but a few others in there, but a narrow focus. And so those come out daily. Okay, just go by the Doug Upstone page at Doc Sports. You can check them out right there.
There you go. Doug Upstone over at DocSports.com, one of the longest tenured sports betting, probably the longest tenured sports betting service in the country. Yes. They've been around for 51 years, Doug?
I think this is the 53rd year right now.
53rd year. We've been doing the show so long that I lost track. I know we started out at 50, so we must be doing it. This must be our 3rd year together here. So in any event, the longest tenured sports betting service in the country, DocSports.com. And folks, longevity speaks volumes in this industry. We've both been around for around 21 years or so since we began our career in the sports betting industry. We got a late start, both of us. But by the same token, we've seen a lot of people come and go, a lot of services come and go. And Doc Sports remains a constant. You can find me over at gamblersworld.net, folks. Look, I'm always transparent I've been talking about how red hot I've been over the last 3 weeks. And still, my overall record over the last 3 weeks is very good. But I went 1-4 the last 2 days. So I got to bounce back. And I got 3 Major League Baseball picks up for tonight. If you see this show in time on Monday, my Major League Baseball picks, by the way, 25-12 with my last 37 at gamblersworld.net. Also, all sports 28-16 with my last 44 over at gamblersworld.net. And going back to last year, despite the Ohio loss, I'm 18-8 with my last 26 college football picks. All there at gamblersworld.net. You could also find me at rbwins.com. Don't forget, folks, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, take a second to do so. It costs you absolutely nothing. No strings attached. No hidden agenda. If you're on your PC, you'll see a WC logo right there in the bottom right-hand corner of your video box. Just click on that. It'll get you subscribed. If you're on your mobile device, which many of you are, you'll see that black subscribe button right underneath the video box. You can't miss it. Just hit that and go one step further. Go into your settings on YouTube and click your alert notification bell and for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, and you'll be alerted immediately upon any of our podcasts going up right here on our channel. And at the end of the video, folks, we ask you just a small favor. Give us a like. It's just a small token of your appreciation for the efforts and time that we put into the preparation and delivery on this channel. And we can't thank you enough. We're over 10,000 subscribers. We passed that plateau last week. There's been about 170 that have subscribed since last week. And that's very encouraging. It's very rewarding. And this show could not survive without you, your support, I should say. So until the next time, for Ross Benjamin and Doug Upstone, one more thing. Don't forget, $100 off all football subscription plans at gamblersworld.net through Wednesday. So take advantage of that, folks. For Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. I'll be back tomorrow with Sean Higgs and Jesse Shule discussing more college football. But until then, all the best, folks.